going on? RGIJ is back, baby.
So I have two stories that I remember you're talking that I was just like, I got to mention. So I went back to fill a gap for someone that was sent home on a deployment, and they're like, hey, man, can you go back since it's only been a year? You can go back there, fill the gap, wait until this other guy can actually show up because he's still scheduled. So I was like, yeah, no biggie. So I stayed there for like 37 days, just over a month. And I went back and I literally just chilled because there's no cool people to hang out with. Like even the people at work were just kind of, nobody wanted to do anything. And I was just like, whatever. So I just stayed in my room, read books, whatever. Well, when the other SERE specialist came, I showed him around. We were doing turnover and I was like, hey, I'm about to leave. We went out to have some drinks. Well, the next night, it was like on a weekend. So it was like, I think it was Saturday because Friday we had drinks. And Saturday, you know how everybody would take the golf carts and drive as close as they can to the gate and drive them off. And my buddy was like, hey, man, like, is that legal? And I'm like, it should be illegal because, only so many people get golf carts, right? And they were using them for personal use. They're not using them for work use anymore. So me and my friend, we made sure it was like 10, 11 or so. We went out there and had a key. And we stole every golf cart and parked them as far away as we could. He said, and I left. So I left that like next 2 days. He said, I left like on that Sunday. He said the Monday brief, they had said, please do not move, please do not move any of the golf carts that don't belong to you because we had an incident where people couldn't find their golf carts. And he said they said it and they left it at that because what they didn't want to say was like, because there was a whole bunch of them parked right by the gate for people that went to go party and come home drunk and drive drunk home. So they just kind of left it at don't drive carts that don't belong to you kind of thing. But we parked them, dude, everywhere. Random spots, dude, hidden behind buildings, everything. And he said that for like a week, people were pissed off about it. And I was just like, because they know they're wrong. And that's why nobody was all like, let's investigate this further. Because that would have been like, what? So people were driving home drunk after being out in town using a government vehicle to drive home. So that's one story. The second story is, do you guys remember that Master Chief, bald guy that was there when we were there? So he's in the Navy, but I knew he was a reservist. He was like fire department, whatever. And one of my first interactions with him, and I don't know, I think, Mike, I think you were there because you sat like right there beside me kind of. We were doing the sandbags. He wanted us to go fill sandbags and cover the HVAC units in case there was like inclement weather. And you remember, like, in the Air Force, like, I got my boss at Southcom that has some shit for me. And so this Master Chief dude, and again, he's probably not used to that because he's like, you're just going to do what I tell you to do as an E5. And I was all like, I remember he told me, he's like, hey, you need to get out there and start filling sandbags. And I said, Master Chief, I'll be there in a second. I'm doing something right now. I'll be there in about 30 minutes. And dude, his face, like, he looked at me and was like, what? And I was like, hey, look, like, I'm in the Air Force, like, I got something I got to do. I don't like I could go do that thing. And I know it's important for you. I will do it. I'm not disrespecting you, but I'm just telling you for right now, I have something I have to finish. It's a deadline. I'm not going to go fill sandbags right now, but I'll be there as soon as I can, which is going to be 30 minutes. And to him, he talked to me afterward. He goes, I don't get it. And I'm like, in the Air Force, you got to get it. I'm sorry, man. Like, and I think Army and Navy people, like, they take rank a little seriouser. So they kind of get on that like trip. I wouldn't even say a trip. It's kind of their culture. But dude, I thought it was a fun, because his face towards me was like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And I was just like, nah, bro, like, I'm not gonna go fill sandbags. I got something more important to do right now. So he wasn't ready for that response. So I thought it was pretty funny. Made that day for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, I had a similar situation where, like, because we're Air Force, all three of us are Air Force. You don't talk to us a certain way, and they did not like that, man. I remember there was like an Army captain. I think he was brand new, and he was like da 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 da, and I was like, all right, hey, and I went and talked to the Lieutenant Colonel because, like, A, he was Air Force, and B, I actually did work for him. So I was like, hey, sir, this was, and plus, by the way, I was the office guy. Like, I was the guy who was like, I remember I had to go watch somebody do something, right? Like cut the grass. That's how menial my job was. And I remember they come out and said like, hey, by the way, it's true.
You
it's true
served
story.
the
But they were like, hey, by the way,
purpose.
I did. And that was not my job that I was supposed to go for. That's what pissed me off even more. Like, I was supposed to have some grand job. And it's like, my job right now is to make sure this guy mows the grass for some reason. Anyways, I remember they coming in and be like, hey, like, you got to come to the meeting. And I was like, I can't, man. Like, I'm watching a guy. And I think they put like an E5. Some dude had to go, and he hated it. And I went into the meeting. And the only reason why it was so important, because I was the guy who was the next. I had to hit the next button for the colonel. And so that was the only reason why I was in that meeting. It wasn't that I had to pull stuff up. It wasn't like, it was because I was the next guy, and I was his next guy. Like, so he would say next, and him and I had a queue. He would look, and I knew exactly where he wanted to go. And, it was kind of that place, right? It was that, so there's that one where that army captain, he got mad, and I was like, hey, Colonel, such, and he was like, no, don't worry about it. And he talked to them, and he had to talk to me differently, right? There was another one. We had I don't know if you were, I think everyone was still there at the time. We had this small little, like, Latino, like, Green Beret colonel come in. He took command, right? So
I remember him. Mm-hmm.
He was cool shit, by the way. Like, that guy was awesome. And at this time, I had to got another job where I became the IT guy. And this is actually where I got my IT experience at. So I became the IT guy. And he asked me to fix something for him. And I really didn't know that much. And I was learning as I was going along, and I was trying to help him. Well, I deleted all his Outlook contacts, but I fixed the problem. That dude was so happy that I fixed the problem, but so fucking, you could tell, like, I've had a couple looks, and they were in Honduras, by the way, where people were like, I will fucking hurt you, because I was around people that could actually hurt me. Like, he was a guy who had done some violence in his life, and he had that look of like, thank you, but I want to fucking whoop your ass for this shit. Like, you caused me pain of email contacts. But it's shit like that, by the way. Like, it was a fun time, because you got to mix with Army, Navy people would talk to you, and you're like, no, man, I'm protected in a sense, because, and then like working with the Army, you see their E4s, because I was an E4 at the time, and the way their E4 acted and the way I acted was completely different, because we're taught different, right? Like, you stand up for yourself, you say these things like, hey, sir, and I have provide those things. But it was the weirdest thing to be around all branches and to know that you are completely different, and that everyone fucking hates you from the moment they see you. But they can't tell you shit, because you're actually doing something more important than they have to do at that moment.
I think it shows that assignment, or that deployment, whatever you want to call it, it kind of shows that people just made shit happen. Because I feel like everybody had their different boss, but it wasn't like this so convoluted that it was just arguments all the time. We all knew who our boss was, but we had different change of commands on who told us to do our daily stuff, as far as the Air Force level stuff, and we just made it work. Like, it's so hard now. Shoot, we have 3 flights at my current situation, and we have a hard time communicating. And like, oh, who said that? When did they tell you? When does it due? Hey, flight chief, get this done. I'm like, wait, what a second. This is the first time I heard about it. But in Honduras, it's like everybody knew what to do. It just like, you just showed up, and if you didn't know, you would just ask each other, and you would figure it out together. There's plenty of that. Or I'd just tell command post, make my phone call, and that's what was going to happen.
Now when I was working,
give me the number, and I'll call.
So I tell you this, I'll share this story with that same Master Chief, right? So I made E6 there. And my superintendent at the time, I don't think it was the one who was my boy, but he was one of those yes man people. So, controllers, when we're off, we need uninterrupted crew rest, sort of, because we're shift workers. We need to work. This motherfucker wants to come up to us and say, hey, we're doing fire extinguisher training. We need your controllers who are not working to come in and do fire extinguisher training. So I'm like, of course, we're not doing that, because the Southcom reg says we don't do that. So I don't know if you remember the sergeant major that used to be in the gym with us, the Army guy, the real skinny, very fit. He was like in really good shape. Like, he was on point. So me and him kind of grew a good relationship. You know what I'm saying? So he actually pinned on command sergeant major. He became the sergeant major after they booted that reservist. He became the guy for the whole Soto Cano. So he used to sit where the Master Chief used to sit at, on the top level where the controllers were and everything. So I told him, I said, hey, Sergeant Major, I was like, this Master Chief is fucking wanting me to have the controllers come in off duty to fucking do fire extinguisher training. I was like, we don't have time for that. I was like, because if we're going to be doing details like that, I need to report back to my MatchCom to let them know that they're sort of taking us for granted because that's not our job. Our job here is to do the coordination piece, not to do stupid fire extinguisher training because his fucking ass was a firefighter back in his hometown, wherever. We don't have time for that. The sergeant major looked at me. He goes, tell him to come to my office. We're going to talk about it. So I told the Master Chief, I said, hey, Master Chief, Sergeant Major said to go to his office. He needs to talk to you about fire extinguisher training. Yo, that Master Chief came back red because the Sergeant Major chewed his ass out, man. He basically told him, he said, the Sergeant Major walked in. This is the story he told me. He said the Sergeant Major walked in and he said, you're not doing no more fucking fire extinguisher training with the jock controllers. Leave them the fuck alone. The Master Chief goes, you can't talk to me like that because I'm equivalent rank. He goes, no, motherfucker, you're reservist. I'm active duty, and I'm a command sergeant major. My duty title alone outranks you. You know what I'm saying? So he said, get out of my office. I'm done talking to you. Yo, that Master Chief came back. He didn't say shit to me. Like, he didn't yell at me or anything. Face, because, you know, he was bald, white, face red, right? Face red. When I saw the Army sergeant major, he goes, hey, Devalle, don't worry about it. You're not doing fire extinguisher training no more. I was like, thank you, Sergeant Major. I appreciate it. Because my E7 at the time was the, yes, Master Chief. Yes, Master Chief. Yes, Master Chief. Let me suck your dick, Master Chief. Yes, Master Chief. No, dude, it can't be like that. Like, there's no yes. Because, again, I would be quick to call Southcom and be like, yo, we're being abused. Fucking pull chalks. Take the controllers out of here. We're fucking done with this shit. You know what I'm saying? But, yo, that Sergeant Major tore his ass a fucking new one, man. It was crazy. And all because he wanted I think, honestly, Mike had a more important job than that Master Chief, honestly.
Yes.
Because that Master Chief,
that dude did nothing,
he did
bro.
absolutely nothing. Besides the fact that he was a firefighter in his hometown, so he said, oh, you know what, let me get this great idea, and let me do firefighting training. Let me bring my hometown training to fucking Honduras. No, that we don't want to do none of that shit. Get that shit out of here. So, Mike, you didn't have a minimal job there. Like, you were important in that aspect.
Hey, so, Mike, you remember, here's one thing. I swear to God, the only thing I hated, I think both of you guys didn't show up, but the formations every morning to check. Bro, I wanted to lose it every morning because I was like, one, I wasn't used to it. I was already at the gym anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I would have to stop my workout, go to the formation, everybody do the whole turnaround, salute, everybody all accounted for. Everybody would go back to their rooms and go to sleep for a couple more hours and go to work. I'd go back to the gym, work out, go to breakfast, and then go to work. But I thought that was so ridiculous, and the fact that you guys were never there.
I had to start showing up once he put me in charge of the console. Once I was not a shift worker no more, I actually had to start showing up, and I even showed up as one of the leads to salute the fucking first sergeant to say J3 all present accounted for, because my superintendent at the time, he fucking went on vacation. I don't know where the fuck he went. He went somewhere. But I remember I had to salute the first sergeant to tell them that we were all accounted for and everything else. But yeah, that formation was me and Mike were talking about. Do you remember the formation run? Were you there when we were carrying the fucking rock and we were passing the fucking rock around? I was like, this is not Air Force. Like, what? I get the whole fucking unity and everything else, but the rock. Whose fucking bright idea was to bring a fucking rock and pass that shit around? It was ridiculous.
Oh.
Well, that fire training that for the fire extinguisher, I had to go to that one. I actually went to it.
It was you and two other people?
Yeah, it was like a couple of us. But like the job I had to actually report stuff. That was actually part of it. I wasn't like, I think when I got told I was going there for, it was nothing like that, but I had to report like stuff up to higher up. So, I mean, there were certain things I could do and get away with and be like, I got to do this. And they're like, yeah, you're right, because you're the only one who reports these numbers to these people. And apparently no one else can do it, which it wasn't true. I think it was just like, that place became like, if you found yourself a job and like you made yourself important, you could really get like kind of a status. And so like being an E4, because I was a computer guy, I kind of had a sway with the little things like that because I could fix things, not really fix. I mean, not the skill level I have now, but a lot of it was because I was just in that building and I wanted to learn. That I got away with a lot more stuff that everyone else couldn't get away with because I was the youngest one, so everyone treated me like the little brother. But also because I could fix the stuff for them, I got away with a lot of things where people were like, yeah, go ahead, man, just do your thing, or, you know, come in when you got to come in, or do those ones. You know, cause like if I had to stay late or something like that, but that was like, it's so crazy that part, right? Because again, you know, when you're talking about that guy, I remember he would be sitting there and he would be working on his breathing exercising. Cause I think he was like special forces or something like that. And he would just sit there and he would just like blow into it and work on his lungs while he was working. Cause he had no job either. He was just sitting there. He was a sergeant major and he was just there to kind of, you know, be this, you know, be that. And the reason why that guy sticks out to me is A, cause he made us do the boulder run. That was number one. And two, we bonded because like he was really a health nut and he was eating the chocolate almonds. So I asked him about him. He gave me some and I really liked them. So he would just give me like nuts, like chocolate nuts and just like, and that's like the best thing about it is like, that's how friendships were made. Is like, we were in a room sitting there. We would talk. Sometimes I wouldn't even do shit. Go talk to Izzy, you know, or you and I would be talking there, or Kelly, or, you know what I mean? What, like, it was the only place where you can get so much work done and really no one knew what no one really knew what each one of us were responsible for. We just knew we had a job in a station. Like, this goes, you do this. If somebody comes in here and mows, I have to get up and leave. We don't know why that is or who replaces me somehow as that guy. But man, that was like, like for work wise, that was really fun because man, I got my hands into so many things for no other reason because I was the lowest ranking. And like, you know, like SharePoint stuff, like my IT experience of it, a lot of it comes from Honduras because man, they just let me like, you want to do it? Yeah, I want to learn how to do this. Like, cool. We'll take you we'll send you that training over here and you can do it. Oh, you want to learn how to do the printers? Well, like here, fix our computer. We don't know how to do it. Right. And so that place will always forever be in the back of my mind for just all the fun we had. And then again, just the crazy shit of like, you know, hey, we're going to go do a boulder run. We're going to go run like fucking idiots in formation. And if you fell out, we're going to shoot you. Like, you're going to get in trouble for that. Like, you know, like you're going to get in trouble for falling out. And at the same time, we're going to run at like a snail's pace. So if you even fall out of that part, like it's but then again, we were halfway drunk, like, you know, like I've shown up to a couple of those formations, just swaying back and forth and being like, hey, it's over with. I got to get some sleep because I just stopped partying like an hour ago. I'm drunk still. And then going into work and people were like, you're drunk. It's fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're drunk. You smell, you reek of tequila because it was Cinco de Mayo out there. Yeah. You know, that was a fun night. But you know, it was the only place where you could do that. And again, no one worried about it. Again, like the golf carts like that. There's so much shit where, you know, going back to what you're talking about with the golf carts, one of the reasons why, because if you looked at like all those people that had those Chevron or those bars, you know, that's why they all had those golf carts. And so, you know, you're fucking with like certain people, but you know, it's kind of ones where like, they're always doing that stuff. So it's kind of like, you know, this and that, but man, yeah, fun place. Like I said, all those stories, I do that fire extinguisher training. I learned a lot from it. I think I've actually saved a couple people. Was that in your EPR? You put that in your EPR? Yeah, well, it was a sweep, you know? Like, I've always taken those things and they said sweep, and you're like, oh, I get now I've actually swept a fire. Because they took us out to the middle of nowhere somewhere and put a trash can on fire, was like, put it out. So everybody would take their turns. And so that's really what it was just going out. And, you know, you're standing around being like, who's going to be next? Like, you're just there's a line.
I feel like leadership just needed to please the higher ranks. You know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, what was the point of the Master Chief's position? It really served...
because we had 2 E9s.
It really served no purpose. So I felt like the leadership was like, just make them a senior enlisted leader or senior enlisted advisor. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just started making up positions for them to have. Do you guys remember the major female that was teaching yoga in the jock? You guys were you there for that, Nori?
It was probably before our time.
No, she was there after. She replaced some of the other Navy and Army folks. So we used to have 1 o'clock. She used to stand in the middle of the jock and go, okay, guys, we're going to do PT. She was a major Air Force. And she'd be like, downward dog. And everybody's like, what the fuck is this lady talking about? And then she'd be she'd be putting her leg over her shoulder on the floor. And she's like, okay, get in this position. This works the back. And I would just close the window, you know, my window up there, close the door, and I'd be like, I ain't doing this shit, man. I got fucking other things to be doing. But Honduras was awesome, man. It really was an awesome assignment.
Do you guys remember the Army captain that sat at the bottom that would go work out in his uniform every day and come back drenched in sweat, and they finally told him, you can't do that? Even though they had briefed that, hey, your Army uniform it's it's for everything. You could go PT in it. And so, dude, I remember he would, for his lunch, he'd go to the gym, get a great workout, and he'd come back filthy sweaty.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I forgot who told him finally, hey, you can't do that anymore. You can go work out, but you can't come back sweaty and doing any of that.
Yeah, so actually, I knew both of those captains, right? Because I work with them, and that's like I work with them. The other guy, they got me in, like the first guy got me into CrossFit because that's what we would go. I actually started working out with them, and so that's actually how I learned about do not walk on the grass was from them. So we would go to the gym, and of course we had a golf court, right? So we go to the gym and we would go work out. And so I remember one time, like I was walking somewhere and I like cut the corner, and he was like, "You can't walk that," and I was like, "Okay, why is that?" And he was like, "It's Sergeant Major's grass," and I was like, "Huh?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "It's the Sergeant Major's grass." And he's like, "You can't walk on the grass. You can't walk on Sergeant Major's grass." And they believed that, like, it wasn't like, "Hey man, like this is an Army thing we do." It's kind of like, it was very like, "That's Sergeant Major's grass. Do not walk on his grass ever again." You know, it's a captain telling me this. I was like, but I mean, it's just like, you know, again, we're different, man. Like you have Air Force walking with Army, and it's like, what do you? It's fucking grass. And like, no, it's his personalized grass. It's like, all right, yeah, and it's just, but yeah, he would work out a storm, and he would just take lunch and then go back, and he would fucking smell horrendous because he killed it. He went as hard as he could. You know, he's like what 24 maybe or something like that. So he's still young himself. And we're all around the same age, and he's just like, cool, I'm working out nonstop. But yeah, him and another captain, they would go and they would just work out during lunch. And then I think what he came down to is he didn't take a shower. He would just switch uniforms,
Change his
or
blouse.
switch his shirt, something like that. Like it was like a barely like you smelt it, but it was just like, I did what you asked, man. I changed uniforms. And it's like, bro, you just changed the shirt. You still reek like shit. And we're in this room together. So thanks. Now we can just smell you. And I remember him being like extremely like hairy, like arms hairy and stuff like that. So it's like everything kind of like just trapped everywhere he was at, like just sweat. And he would just come back and be like, what'd I do? I'm just doing what the Army asked me to do.
Yeah, but the joint environment was the best, man. Go ahead, Nori.
Yeah, who was the major Air Force guy that showed up? He was like a, not gunship, but I think he was like a C-130, C-17.
Yeah.
He was in charge for a very little bit until the actual J3 came.
Yeah.
What was his name? Do you guys remember his name?
I think I got it. I think his first name was Jeremy. I have it because it's on my award because I was at during that time.
Okay.
And he's that colonel I was talking about, like because he got there as a major and went up to lieutenant colonel, and I worked for him when he was a major. When he got to lieutenant colonel, he just took care of me like the whole time. So if I had a problem with anybody, I'd be like, "Hey, sir, I have this issue going on." He'd be like, "Don't worry, I'll talk to him." He like treat me like a little brother.
So the reason I bring him up is, do you guys remember that saluting thing that happened right outside the JOC? I don't know who it was, but anyways, one of the Air Force, the 12th Air Force guys that were down there, the full bird, they remember because they had like a couple of full bird colonels that were down there. Well, they were right outside the JOC, but remember that was a no hat, no salute. So they were inside the fence, and someone told me that they chewed that person out for not saluting him as he walked by, and I was like, "What? Who did that to you?" "Oh, the two colonels that are here from the Air Force, 12th Air Force guys," and I'm like, "What? Did they know it was a no hat, no salute?" So he's like, "I guess not," or whatever, but they kind of chewed me out. I'm like, hold on. So I went out there with him, and we went back to go do something like real quick at the golf cart, go get something from the room and come back just to see. And yeah, so he chewed me out, or he chewed us both out for not doing it. And I was like, all right. So I came back, I saluted him, and they were still there talking, which was weird. I went back to the major, who was lieutenant colonel, and I said, "Hey, sir, look, I'm respectful to officers. Like, if it's, I will render a salute, but to my understanding, inside that JOC fence, it's a no hat, no salute. And we have two people posted out there that are kind of like, as we're getting outside the fence, they're still inside the fence and requiring a salute." And he said, "Who is this?" So, dude, he went out there and told them something, not in a nice way, but he got called out by a lieutenant colonel, a young lieutenant colonel who just put it on. And I remember I went back out there and they were still there, dude. And he came up to me, that one of the full birds. He's like, "Hey, so thanks for telling on us." And he goes, I respect that. He goes, "I respect that you weren't unprofessional to me or to the other colonel, and that you addressed it with your boss, and that your boss came out here and told us something." He goes, "I appreciate that." And so he goes, "Nah, man, thanks." And I was like, dude, and I like again having that relationship, that it was just a good boss. He knew he had to take care of us, and he was stepping into a position that He was a deputy J3 and then taken over as J3 until the new one came. And he was an awesome dude. He didn't know any of us really. I mean, he was leaving there shortly after the new J3 came.
Yeah.
So.
But
Good dude.
Dude was
I
awesome,
love
man.
the fact that it was just joint. Because this was I don't know about you, but that was my first time working in a joint environment like that with the Army, Navy, and everybody else. But it really opened up my eyes because, we're so used to just working Air Force all the time, Air Force reporting, Air Force this, Air Force that. But to be able to now do joint and still even see them as just regular people. You hear the stories, the Army's fucking hardcore, the Navy's this, that. But they were just all good people. I mean, you had one or two that I'd be like, whatever. There was one Army pilot that I didn't really care for. Like, he was just there. I'm just like, it is what it is. But for the most part, it was just like, when I first got there, I was like, joint. I was like, yo, how's this going to operate? Because I don't know if they know how command posts work. I don't know how they work. It took a while for us to fucking sync and to learn. I didn't know why you had 7 SEER specialists there on the fucking floor. You had a SEER officer, a SEER enlisted. You had all these fucking SEER people. I'm like, nobody's drowning in the ocean. You know what I'm saying? There's no beacon going off that needs somebody to come fucking look for them. And then I remember they did a fucking exercise with your alternate SEER guy. He looked lost as fuck. He was another staff sergeant, and they did a fucking exercise where it was like, this is the scenario. The fucking ship destroyed and people are lost. Now go find them. It's like, I remember he's telling people, hey, plans. I need a plan for this area and that area. Oh, let's take inventory of the beacons that we had in the fucking storage room and everything. I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? But
wait, the guy that replaced me?
Yeah, the staff sergeant.
Bald white guy?
No, it was he had like blonde hair. I don't know if he was your alternate.
I think that was before
Was that
him.
before you?
Oh, the guy I replaced?
Yeah, he was lost, dude.
Ben Thomas.
Yeah, dude,
Benjamin.
Lost, bro. This exercise is going on, and I'm just like, what is happening? Like, I'm saying to myself, these people drown. There's nobody coming to find them. Nobody's gonna come to rescue them. Like, they're lost. And I don't know why they always had to dim the lights to, I guess, make the TV screen with the maps and everything else. And then you had the captains down below, the fucking sweaty, smelly captain. He was taking care of tracking the planes and pinpointing this and that. But it was a debacle. Like, that exercise was fucking shambles. And I never knew what plans did. Like, the plans people set outside of the job because they had no spot for them. And I never knew what the fuck their role was besides saying, hey, I reviewed this plan and it's good to go. So let's go ahead and execute it, and let's do an exercise and see if we could fucking execute the plan's objectives here. I never knew their role. I never understood it. I was like, these people are lost. Like, nobody cares about them. But I'm grateful that we had at least one successful capture when I was there. I think you guys were there for that too. We had one successful interception of fucking drugs trying to come through and everything else. And I was like, man, that was fucking awesome. They showed little videos and everything else, but I was like, man, that was, at least the whole time that I was there, I didn't leave without, man, nothing ever happened like that. But I was like, yo, we fucking did this, man. That was pretty cool. But I never worked in joint before, so I was happy to be in a joint environment. Like, it really opened up my eyes to understand the other branches, knowing that I could work with them, if I ever got deployed with them or anything else. I knew how they operated now, they knew the same lingo. Like, honestly, I thought it was going to be like me and just other Air Force just hanging out together. Like, I never thought all of us would mesh like that. You know what I'm saying? I never thought that I would be at a bar with fucking 2 Army, 1 Navy, 3 Air Force, fucking whoever else was there. I think we had that one Marine lieutenant that showed up. He was out there. But it was like, I never thought that it would be so well meshed like that. Because when I first got there, not many people were hanging out. It was like Air Force was the battle buddy, Army battle buddy, Navy battle buddy. Like, it was like, and the officers really didn't, the enlisted officers didn't really sync. You know what I'm saying? Like, officers went to the bar, enlisted went over here. But then all of that changes, like, as we worked more and more together and we kept seeing each other's faces all the time. It was like, everybody's like, fuck this, work hard, play hard, right? That was like the motto. Like, we're going to fucking do this shit, but we're going to go and fucking have fun. But I loved it, man. I really did fucking enjoy fucking Soto Cano.
Yeah, it's good times. Wish we could go.
I think it was a For sure. I mean, that's like that's what I said, man. It's 2010 for all of us. Great time. I think it was a lot different for everyone else. It was really fun. Man, some of the stories, you know, I mean, like that Marine lieutenant you're talking about, like he got his ass chewed out and then like, cause he was in the wrong uniform and then like some Marine showed up and like chewed his ass out, like an enlisted. And he was wearing like, I guess cause like Marines, they have to wear their certain uniform at certain times of the year. Like theirs are very specific. Like you have to wear your greens and stuff like that in your deserts. And he was wearing the wrong season. And I think he was like wearing greens when he's supposed to wear his tans. But it was like, I'm in Honduras. And so like, I think that's what it was. And they had like an enlisted guy come in. Like I think it was like E7, a gunny. And I think he got chewed the fuck out because the next day he showed up, sleeves rolled up. And it was like, no, like you're still on this like joint. That was also the place where I got a yell in an actual general's ear. And it was like, good job for me. So we had one guy like visit, I forgot where he came from, you know, like one of those guys that have like, they bump somebody else off of an airplane type bullshit. And cause I'm the youngest rank and I had to go open the door and say, you know, like, hey, this person's on deck, da da da. Well, I said it as he was coming in, he was a little bit shorter than me. So like his ear is right to my thing and I just screamed my ass off because that's what I was supposed to do. And he just looked at me and was like, yeah. And it was just like, you could tell he was just like, that's my fucking eardrum, asshole. But yeah, man, I have a blast, man. I think nothing but great things. And, you know, bringing it back to a serious side with all that stuff, like, man, Nori, I'm, you know, knowing where you're going next, man, there's a lot of people I've seen get out and you're sitting there saying like, fuck, man, like, I hope you're not part of the 22. And that's a real thing because, you know, they're going to be depressed. You know, there's some people that are, you know, 18, 19 years and they still haven't done shit to make sure they're getting out. Like to them, they're going to the wheels fall off and it's about to fall off in a year or two and then they're screwed. You know, but I'm glad that you're not that scenario. I'm glad that you've already been thinking about it. We've been talking, you know, over a year or so, you know, about 2 years about kind of some plans and those things. And it's great to know that, you know, you got your military training that makes you problem solve this, saying, okay, this is a new problem. I'm going to tackle it very logically and you're not running out of it. So, you know, that's great. I know that like if you were to do, you know, throw some stuff in your air, like you could do whatever you want. And if you still want to have a side business, you might find out entrepreneurship is really your gig. Only because like one of the reasons why I like real estate in a sense is because like I wake up, I work when I want to, I do that. And I found for me, that gives me the freedom to sit there and saying, let's work, let's have fun. And I get to say what's enjoyable. So I think that's something that might be good for you is entrepreneurship because, you know, as you're talking about real estate, that is entrepreneurship because you can actually, you know, I don't know if you know this, but if you get around 10 properties, I know somebody who has about 12 properties, they're bringing about 10K a month, just being a landlord. You know, and it took years to get there, by the way. So it's not like, oh, you know, they did it within 6 months, but they were smart enough to know that. And they got multiple businesses on top of that, that I find a lot of military people, man, we got a lot of different things that we can do because of problem solving, goal setting, like hot washing, you know, after actions reports, whatever you call it. We have so many different things that we can go that I honestly think that we're so used to being treated the way we are, even in Honduras, we were so used to kind of that way that, man, we got so many skills. We got so many more things. And a lot of it's because the military taught us that, like, I would never know these things. I would never know any of y'all. But I'm blessed to call y'all friends. And, you know, so going forward with those things, man, you know, when it comes to retirement, I think that's the best thing. You're going to wake up one day and sit there saying what I want to do. And the great thing to know is that in 3 months, it could be something completely different. And that's fine too. I think that's a scary part a lot of veterans find is because we're so used to doing, you know, you've been doing this for almost 20 years. What happens if you do something for 6 months? Does that make it less or more? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of that conundrum, but that's freedom, and freedom is scary. But man, I'm so happy that you come to this place where you're at now. I've got to meet your wife. I got to meet your boy, man. Little chunky monkey, man. He's just like that, but you're a good dad. You can tell you know, it's full of love and stuff like that. And, you know, I even got to see your work site. I was happy to see, because we saw each other when we're so young. And now to see each other where we're at, Izzy's about to go for his master's. He's still trying to get them 18, 19-year-old girls and chest hair popping out with the gold chain. Still doing it. I don't know, man. But no, I'm really glad, man. Like I said, I'm really glad to call y'all friends. I'm really happy where you're at, Nori. I think you have, you know, you can go wherever you want to do. If you want to do law enforcement, if you don't, you know, and you and I have talked about with the SERE thing, like, you know, that's still an option, man. If you get some land, you can start helping people. That's a job. That's a business. But more importantly, I think the most important thing is the mission. Is what is your next thing in life that you get to sit there and say, guess what? I'm making a difference in the world. You did it with the Air Force, with people. Now you got to find that, you know, what are you doing next? Because if you get a job and it pays amazing, which your friend is probably a prime example, pay good money, but sitting there waking up every morning being like, man, I don't want this shit at all, man. You can take the money. I will take the stress of being broke, you know what I mean? I'll take the stress of a little bit less, but I'll have the freedom. So that's my thing to you, man. I think that's my advice at all to any veteran at all that's getting out is just, man, find that mission. You have remarkable skills and you can make this world a better place. You just got to apply your training and just have confidence in yourself. And if anything else, just have Izzy call you and just say, what are you doing?
You know, Nori, you could always come be my fucking car driver. You could work for me. You could be my assistant. I need an assistant. I'll pay you good money. No, but in all honesty, man, me and Mike talked about it when we wanted to have guests, just to show you the amount of love that we have for you. Like, you were the first. Like, we didn't we didn't make a list. We didn't fucking be like, oh, let's go with this person, that person. The first person we wanted to do this with and everything else was you, man, just because how much we really love your friendship. We're glad that we crossed paths. We're grateful that we served with you and everything else. And when you do get out, if you don't need to work right away, enjoy your time. You know what I'm saying? I know too many people that they retire and they're back in the workforce because they don't have nothing to fall back on to not let them have to go back to work. So one thing that I tried to do before I retired was I made sure my money was right. So when I did get out, I was able to give myself that freedom to be able to take the months off that I took off because my money was there. You know what I'm saying? So if you have the opportunity to do that, do it. But at the same token, know that you have a great support system with your family, but you got your boys too. So if you ever need advice, don't ever feel embarrassed that you're calling us for questions. Don't ever let that thought come through your mind because you could call us anytime. You know, Mike's good with the whole real estate investing and everything else. Like I said, I'll give you a job being my driver, whatever, you know, my assistant. But no, honestly, man, just if you ever need anything, just let us know, especially like if you decide to go back to school, you want to know the process, reach out, you know what I'm saying, resumes and all that stuff, reach out, you know what I'm saying, but you do have us here. But thanks for taking the time to be with us, man. We appreciate it. We love you, bro, and I hope you enjoyed your time with us, man.
No, I really appreciate you guys having me on. I know it's been a long time coming since I know you guys have been doing this. Yeah, I appreciate having me on. Yeah, I'm excited to wherever it goes. I have a feeling I'm going to get this assignment. I think it's kind of set in stone, so I might be moving to Florida. But if I don't, like I told my wife, you know, regardless, and I even told my senior listeners, I said, look, it doesn't matter whether I get this assignment. In less than a year, I am out because I have to do my 6-month skill bridge, which I think everybody needs to take advantage of. The Air Force, I thought, made a good call having that, even though you lose 6 months of someone's active duty time to go do things. But in reality, they're kind of checked out anyways or worried about the future anyways, hopefully. And so either way, whether I don't get the assignment and don't get to move to Florida, we'll stay here. I'll finish out, and then we'll decide where we're going after that. But no, thanks, guys. You know, back at you guys. If you ever need anything, let me know. I have the same cell phone. I'm never changing my number. I don't care what happens. That number's going to stay. Reach out, even if it's late at night, whatever, man. I still stay up probably 3 times a night where I play video games to that's kind of like my release from everything else, work wise, you know, education wise, everything. My wife, my kids, I'll be like, all right, I need some time to myself, and I still play video games. So sometimes I'll be up till like 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. Can't do it all the time because I'm getting old and I need my sleep. So if I do it the next night, I'm going to sleep.
I will continue to drunk dial you. Don't worry, on the weekends. I call you up. All stuttering and everything.
I'll be waiting
And don't forget to invite us to the retirement ceremony. We want to be part of that. So wherever it's at, let us know, please, so we could hopefully be able to attend.
It's crazy that you say that because I'm getting invites for guys that came in like a year before me, and it's so awesome that I get to go. I'll be in Florida, I think like March. Yeah, I think beginning of March, for a buddy's retirement that came in probably a year before I did, and he's going to call it quits in May. I think he's in Eglin.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that. So, but yeah, man, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. It's good to talk old times and bring back some good memories.
Definitely.